What's up, storytellers? Welcome to One Clear Story. I'm here to make storytelling simple for you and your business because every single business is one clear story away from being understood, trusted, and remembered. But most people think the difference between them and the ones that are succeeding is better marketing or posting more and more often and following the trends. But the real problem is confusion. We're telling too many stories and we don't know which ones matter. That is why I am here to help you go from confusion to clarity. I am Alex Street, and I believe lasting impact always starts with one clear story. And so if you want to make lasting impact with the work that you do on the people around you, of course you do. Well, then let's dive into today's big idea, which is to start things off confusion to clarity. This one amazingly powerful transformation. Just think about all the areas that you feel confused in your life right now, especially as a business owner, that you are confused in how to show up. How do I make my mark today? Which apps do I use? What am I supposed to say when I do show up? Is speaking the right path for me? If it is the right path, well, how do I get paid speaking? How do I stand out from all the other people? What about just launching my idea? How do I do that when it feels right, but it feels so saturated? Where is the right person? Who is the right coach? How do I get started? What in the hell am I supposed to do to make some money in this world when everybody around me says it's so possible and it's so easy? Look, I did it. You can do it too. How come you're struggling? All that confusion. My goodness. If you could just snap your fingers and feel clear in all of those areas right away, I mean, how would that change things? Just think how quickly you would show up on the right social media platform and say the right thing that immediately attracts the right people. Your website would be so clear. You would write that book that you've been dreaming of. You would pitch yourself for those stages and they would immediately say yes. You would know exactly where you belong and where you don't belong. And when you do go into those rooms that you do belong in, you would proudly show up and speak and shake hands and say what you do and how you help people. I mean, everything changes with clarity. That's why we're starting here. Because I believe that our struggles, and I say this from my own very lived experience, come from this belief that my problem is visibility. My problem is really just, showing up. Or my problem is not being seen, which I guess goes with visibility. Yeah, I think most business owners feel like their problem is visibility. And this goes with not just solopreneurs and people showing up on Instagram, sort of the personal brands, but it really does go with brand owners or leaders of teams. You think, well, if I just get people together more, that's why we have team meetings every Monday morning, so we can just see each other. And you think, well, if I do that, then I'll motivate my people. And yet, I mean, are we motivated? Are we any more motivated than we were in 2020? So all the same struggles are here, and we think that if we just keep showing up, or if I just get seen more, which means that you're doing more, you're saying more, and yet none of it feels true and authentic. Because we're not. We're lost in our own story. That's the problem. We're confused in what do I even say? How do I even show up? How will they know what I'm about? Why does this matter? And how do I make them see that? That's the problem. We're just confused. It doesn't matter if you keep showing up 100 times, if every time it's a different message, because that confuses you and your audience. And if you're confused, you better believe that they are. And if they're confused, they're not going to buy anything. This, for me, comes from a very personal example and story of really when I started this whole thing. I mean, I started doing this work as a speaker coach and a storytelling coach about 6 years ago. It was 2019, the fall of 2019, when I leaned into this and said, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to help people speak. I'm going to help people tell clear stories. That's what I'm going to do. Now, that specific shift right there, I'll tell about that some other time. If you know me, if you've seen me, then you've already heard that story, I'm sure. And yet, it's interesting every time, right? But today the story goes back even further to when I was shifting out of an old career in which I was a youth pastor, and I was trying to figure out what in the world am I supposed to do with my life? Because I know that I can speak, and I know that I can coach people, and I know that I can inspire people. I know that my words will make magic, but how do I use those gifts and impact the world with them in a new way, in an expansive way, in an opening way when my faith and everything is shifting? Again, that's another story for another day. And I found myself at a coffee shop one night, and I was looking through my life for all of the ways that I could help people. I was thinking about the network that I have and who I could reach out to and what kind of expansion they could provide for me. And I was thinking about what platforms I'm on. And I had a podcast back then, just a passion project called Made for This, where I was just interviewing people who do what they do. And I wanted to figure out why they knew what they were made for. How did they find that? Because ultimately, I was searching for that too. Isn't that just the way? Most of us are creating podcasts to put out in the world just to create like a shared conversation around something that we're already struggling with. Hi, welcome to One Clear Story. And so in that space, I was sitting there and asking the question again, what am I supposed to do? And what I did was something that I'd never tried before, but now I help other people do all the time. And that was to look at my story. And instead of looking at all the different things that I've done in my life and all the different moments and all the different ways that I can help people, 8, 10 different ways that I can help people and things that I had done. As a youth pastor, you do everything. And so I was looking at all of those things. But what happened was I started to boil down, and I looked through my story and all the moments that I had felt the most alive in my life, felt the most clear in my life. And all of those moments came down to one story, one movement, was that I entered a room, whether that was real or metaphorical room. I entered a space, a conversation, and I helped people experience something that shifted them from where they were to where I hoped that they would be. I helped create an experience where they shifted in some way. Without fail, everything that I felt most alive in my life all zoomed into that one movement, that one idea to create this experience of change for people. And that became the story that I latched onto. I remember walking out of that coffee shop that night feeling lighter, feeling focused, feeling like, oh my goodness, I just unlocked something here. And if somebody asked me, okay, what am I supposed to do now? If the next day somebody came up to me and said, Alex, what are you focusing on these days? I don't know that I would say I'm focusing on copywriting, or I'm focusing on leading teams, or I'm focusing on building events, or I'm focusing on speaking. I think in that moment, I would have said something like, I just want to help create an experience where people feel like something has shifted. There was clarity in that moment. Now, it was raw and it was messy, as it often is in that first iteration. But going from those 10 different ideas, nothing was landing. Just looking at the what, nothing was landing. But when I started to zoom in on why, that's when clarity knocked on the door and I started to open it. And I think that is what we're all looking for. Because in an effort to show up and say what we do and convince people that what we do is what they need, we're over-explaining what we do. Have you felt that? You're putting more words into it. You keep going back to AI and asking for a new, more human feel, a warmer feeling of explaining what you do. And yet we just keep over-explaining what we do in different ways with different B-roll and different trending audio. And for so many of us, it's just leaving people unclear. I could talk for days about how I am in this shift right now, actually shifting and finding more clarity in my message and what I do. The guy who has been been bringing clarity and had a successful business doing so for the last 6 years is now showing up saying, hey, I want to bring more clarity. Actually, I feel more clear in my message and feel like maybe there has been, this is stinging a little bit. There has been a sense of confusion that I have been leaving people with in over-explaining and over-delivering frameworks and strategies and structures. And so what I want to do here is help talk a bit more about the perspective rather than the structures. We can talk about structures. I mean, I can give you frameworks for days. That's what I do in my coaching. I bring people through all of those movements and help you find all the things and create your keynotes and everything that you need. But here on this podcast, we're going to talk about this perspective shift that we don't need 10 different stories. You don't need to keep showing up with all the different ways that you do what you do and keep over-explaining, but one clear story, one why, one meaning, that matters. See, I think that clarity doesn't come from necessarily the most clean storytelling structure, and then you run all of your stories through that structure and you come out with all these different ideas. That's possible, and I would say that's a bit more nuanced and probably further down the road for a lot of us. But if you are in this place and you're struggling to just say, like, I get it, I understand that storytelling matters, but every time that I try to tell a story, it just feels so confusing. It's too big. It's too complicated. Then you're going to love this one clear story conversation, because I believe that clarity comes from seeing which story actually matters. Everything else around this is noise. Everything else could fade away, and you will be left with your one clear story. And when that story is clear, people will understand what you do without effort. I mean, people will come to you and they will see exactly what you do, that you will help them go from somewhere to somewhere else. And that story, that's enough to get a conversation started. The confidence, everything else follows after that. So, if you are here to make lasting impact in this world, which I know that you are, well then we are in for a great adventure together here on One Clear Story, and specifically in an effort to go from confusion to clarity, we're going to start focusing on the story that actually matters. And when you zoom in on that, everything shifts. Lasting impact always starts with one clear story. All right, if you enjoyed this, please reach out to me. Just come find me. You can listen to this all that you want, but I'm here for the conversation. So find me on Instagram @StreetSays. Find me on LinkedIn, Alex Street. Start the conversation there. I'm going to be in both of those places. Sign up for my newsletter on my website, alexstreet.ca. You can go and get a freebie there, a 30-second story download where you can get the frameworks that you're looking for. And then you will be on my email list and get all the updates that come there as well. In the meantime, we'll see you next week for the next episode of One Clear Story.